Will the real God please stand up my first 80 years?
The following is an interview with Dr. Dorothy May. Now that was the title of your book. How would you describe your book?
My book is, first of all, it's an e-book. It's not a print. And it is a spiritual memoir that deals with my inner journey through life. It takes place in decades from 1936 to 2012. That's a basic description.
And why did you create this book?
Well, I began writing the book to answer the question, when you've been through a life-changing experience and you come out and find yourself still alive, what do you do? What are your choices? And where do you go from there?
Who are the people or forces who influenced you the most in the creation of this work?
Well, the turning point, one of the turning points, is in the 1960s, and the actual zeitgeist of that time, the atmosphere, was the greatest influence. And then always my brother Tony, who was 17 years older than I, and after him, there was my favorite professor, Dan Kuzahara, in graduate school. Those were mostly my influences.
What is your favorite part of this work?
My favorite part is the voice of the child. When she has a dialogue or an inner reflection with her mama, and she says, "Mama, where do people go when they die? What do you do if you're an angel and you're still here on earth? Is it my job to take care of you?" That kind of dialogue. That's my favorite part. I love the voice of the child.
How long did it take you to complete this work?
I don't want to discourage any would-be writers, but it's about 12 or 15 years it took. But this is a real in-depth look at my entire life. So most books don't take that long. They take a year, 2 years, but not 15. Okay, I'm going to read an excerpt from the beginning of this book. And this is the child's voice. We enter an old world. I let the memories swell around, through, and over me. Sometimes when people die, a gray distorted form like a mythical being is seen rising up from the body and is gone in a few minutes. If you live inside the hazy gray fog, you live your death neither alive nor dead, with no hope for reprieve from the real God because you can't find him. I lived inside that gray fog and traveled the Bardo time for many years. The Bardo and Bardo time, which is time beyond chronological time, are very real in traditional Tibetan thought. It is believed that the Bardo is where souls go between lifetimes when they are working out their destinies. It has no counterpart in Christian tradition. I respectfully borrow the Bardo and the Bardo time concept as it represents a psychological and spiritual plane of my existence at a stressful and traumatic time of my life. And
what is the special significance of your work and how are people helped by reading it?
Well, I think this memoir could influence others to write their own story. It's a daunting endeavor, and it's painful in spots, but it's also the most joyful thing I've done in recent years. And it's a story of the direct experience of God upon the life of an ordinary woman, and I think others could be inspired to pay attention to the clues of God in their lives.
For what audience is this book written?
Well, I think the book would appeal to anyone who's a lifelong learner, male, female, almost any age. And I think they would gain a great deal from reading it. And also have fun.
How is your book different from other spiritual memoirs?
My book is different in that it takes my life in decades and comments on each decade complete with the life lessons I've gotten from living. It spans a long and full but ordinary lifetime. It's my story, but it's also your story. It has many levels of meaning like a novel, but unlike fiction, it is the truth and the poetry of my life. Okay, here's another excerpt from the book. After I emerged from the cave of my torments, a strong wind blew around me. The wind swirled and whirled and whistled all around like a tornado. I felt as though I would be sucked into the vortex, never to return. The strong wind blew away the sticky gray fog of the past forever. I felt a pressure on the back of my neck. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. A presence. Was it Tony? Was it my mother? Was it God? I turned around and no one was there. I knew I was on the verge of finding the real God within myself.
What is the basic concept of this memoir?
Well, the basic concept is that we can create meaning in our lives, not in spite of crises, but because of crises. Crises are triggers for spiritual growth and change when we begin with an underlying premise that we are more than we seem to be. Soul leads the way through crises. Mind interprets events, and our actions are the result of that unique blend.
Now, Dorothy, I'm going to read just one of many glowing reviews you have received. This one is by James Dillahay, the author of Guerrilla Marketing. He says, I love this book. I was especially moved by her struggle toward truth. Growing up in a strict and unloving religion created a yearning for the real God who reveals his presence to her through direct spiritual experiences which transformed her life. Dorothy May's story is a must-read for those asking the questions, who am I? Who is God? What is the meaning of this life? Highly recommended. It is not surprising that you have received this and many other glowing reviews. You have an impressive education and background.
Well, my education includes Northwestern University in Evanston. I finished there in 1977, and I went to Northeastern Illinois University in Chicago for 3 years, ending in 1974. So it was a long time ago that I went to school, and have been in private practice ever since. I have a psychospiritual practice, and I'm a teacher. And my recently published books are Archetypal Reiki, which is about hands-on healing, was published in 2000 by Tuttle Publishers, and Codependency, Power Loss, Soul Loss was published by Paulus Press in 1994. And in between, after that, I published a book of poetry called Windblown, which is the unveiling of a soul. And then I collaborated with Sharon West and did Be Still and Breathe. It was a CD, and we finished that in 2009. So those are my offerings.
And how can people get your current book, Will the Real God Please Stand Up?
Will the Real God Please Stand Up? My first 80 years. It's like a miracle when you order this. If you go to smashwords.com or you go to amazon.com, you can get this book automatically delivered to your Kindle, your Nook, your browser, your computer, your email, all other devices I think that people have. There are some others. And it's like a miracle because you order it, you press a couple of clicks, and bingo, it's on your little Kindle. It's a wonderful process. And you guys are going to really enjoy it.